Part 84. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 831. Chapter 831 Celebration Dinner. Xiaoling said, "We'll see." Ye Xingfei was stunned for a moment, then sneered, "Why are you pretending not to care?" Xiaoling said with some nonchalance, "Who in this music world can surpass me? I really hope I can have a competitor, otherwise I would be a little lonely. Fifei, I came out of Tianyi training camp. Now, you are also sent in. How far you can be trained depends on your destiny." Ye Xingfei didn't expect that she would get such an opportunity after making such a big fuss. However, she was not grateful at all and said, "Stop pretending to be a good person here. I thought I was admitted to the Tianyi training camp by myself, so I didn't need you to give it to me. But you, if you hadn't entrusted me with it, how could you be accepted into the training camp? You should thank me." Xiaoling looked at her amusedly, feeling that it was great to be young, naive, and arrogant, and yet so confident even though she didn't know the heights of the world. Rather than saying she was disgusted, it was better to say that she felt sorry for Ye Xingfei's IQ. It was rare to find someone whose IQ was lower than hers in her previous life. It was not easy. She said nothing more, turned around and walked out. The bodyguard still did not let Ye Xingfei leave, but kept her here until Tan Ying, who received the order, came and took her directly to the training camp. General Manager Tan Diao has a good way of teaching people. It is foreseeable that Ye Xingfei will not say anything to the media in the near future. After this small episode, Xiaoling finished the announcement, which was a little later than expected. Long wait, she hurried out without changing clothes or taking off her makeup, and said to Li Lei, who had been waiting outside, "Where are we going to eat tonight?" Li Lei's eyes were shining. "Come, I will take you to a good place." After saying that, he took her into the car and drove to a high-end club on the outskirts of the city. Xiaoling got out of the car, and the lights suddenly turned on in the originally quiet club. Familiar figures emerged from the transparent lights, including Wei Shaiyin, Feng Kun, Sister Mai Na, Bai Murong, Luo, and others. "Xiaoling, congratulations," a group of people laughed and threw confetti on her body. "Congratulations on finally finding your family. When will you marry Mr. Boss?" Xiaoling was a little frightened by the battle and glanced at everyone weakly. "Why are you all here?" Luo rushed to speak on behalf of everyone. "I'm not boss yet. I said I want to celebrate for you. We all also thought that we haven't been together for a long time, so we just came to join in the fun." "Xiaoling, you are so amazing. You actually recognized the Xia family, dear. I heard that their family is a top wealthy family. Is it true?" Luo's class is not high enough and he has never heard of the legend about the Xia family. Xiaoling smiled and said, "It doesn't matter whether you are a wealthy family or not, it's just 3 meals a day and a bed to sleep on. It's rare for everyone to gather together like this. We want to have a good time. Come on, let's go in." A group of people surrounded her and Li Lei and walked into the club. There are many champagne towers and cocktail tables arranged in the club, which look like a dream under the beautiful lights. The violin band plays melodious melody, creating a confusing scene. Xiaoling chatted with these old friends while drinking wine. Feng Kun came over and said, "Congratulations, Xiaoling, all these years of hard work have finally come to an end." Although all the people present were friends, Feng Kun was the only one who truly understood how difficult her life was. This calm man watched Xiaoling come along. She gradually transformed from the little girl spoiled by Pei Xian to a super queen, and then was knocked down by her broken wings. Later, she was reincarnated and reborn. After experiencing all kinds of hardships, she finally became a super queen. Today, "I admire you for being able to do all this," Feng Kun said sincerely. Xiaoling drank a little too much, and her eyes wandered with intoxication. When people are forced to do that, they always have to do something. Besides, it's lucky that Lilei is there. Fortunately, he is there to protect her. Cheers to you and Lilei. Feng Kun raised his glass. Cheers. Xiaoling drank the cocktail in the glass in one gulp. The banquet reached its climax, the melody of the violin band became provocative, and on the dance floor, people in twos and threes began to dance. Feng Kun was also dragged to dance. Xiaoling was drunk and felt a little dizzy, so she walked out of the banquet hall and went to the small garden outside to enjoy the breeze. It was very quiet, like a garden, with only the rustling of leaves in the night wind and the faint sound of music. She was blowing the wind alone for a while. Suddenly, she heard a strange voice calling her, "Miss Ling." She turned her head and found a man she had never seen before. He had cold and profound features and was wearing a high-end handmade suit. He was looking at her politely. But she could feel the judgment and estimation behind those polite eyes, like sizing up a prey, which made people very uncomfortable. Intuitively, her back tensed slightly. "Don't be so nervous." The man noticed her wariness and tried to soften his attitude. However, perhaps because he had long been accustomed to approaching the world with cold eyes, his efforts were not successful. Xiaoling still looked at him warily. "How did you get in?" "This place is booked tonight." The man said, "It's not a problem for me to book a restaurant. I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Wei Lingnan. You may have heard Wei Shaiyin mention me before." Willingnan. Xiaoling didn't think this name was familiar at all, but upon closer inspection, his appearance was vaguely similar to Wei Shaiyin's, and even his clean and cool temperament was the same. It's just that a Wei feels elegant and arrogant, while this man feels extremely dangerous. She did not dare to let down her guard at all and asked, "What is your relationship with Wei Shaiyin?" The man smiled slightly, but before he could answer, suddenly, he heard Wei Shaiyin's extremely nervous voice coming from the porch beside him, "Little uncle. Why are you here?" Wei Shaiyin rushed forward in 3 or 2 steps, grabbed Xiaoling's hand and pulled her back a step, her whole body showing an angry posture, looking at Wei Lingnan more nervously and warily than Xiaoling. Now that things have happened, Xiaoling is a little curious. "He is your uncle," she remembered. It seemed that a long time ago, she heard Wei Shaiyin or Lilei mention the Wei family. What did they say at that time? It is said that the current head of the Wei family is Wei Shaiyin's uncle, and he has a large number of incredible biological and chemical weapons in his hands. If they are leaked, they can probably destroy the earth. Xiaoling remembered that a long time ago, a little biochemical virus from the Wei family disfigured a girl's face. The terrifying look was still fresh in her memory. It was like a real-life version of a living person turning into a zombie. She shivered shiveringly, and subconsciously took a few steps back. "It seems you have indeed heard of me," Wei Lingnan said with a slight smile on his face. "Relax, I'm not that scary." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 832. Chapter 832. The Dangerous Matchmaker. Wei Shaiyin whispered, "Don't believe him." His voice was slightly stiff due to nervousness. Xiaoling didn't understand. Even though the Wei family was a large biopharmaceutical group and mastered some terrifying black technologies, Wei Shaiyin was from the Wei family after all. She also received family dividends every year. Normally, she should have a good relationship with her family. Why? Are you afraid that Wei Lingnan will be like this? Wei Lingnan had already said, "Shaiyin, you have nothing to do here." He did not deliberately raise his voice, and even the tone of his speech remained the same, but it made Wei Shaiyin's face turn pale and she did not dare to say a word. Xiaoling was not very happy. "Mr. Wei Lingnan, this is not your Wei family. I don't like you scolding my friends on my territory." The corners of Wei Lingnan's lips curved slightly, as if revealing a hint of a smile. "No one has dared to speak to me like this for many years. Miss Ling is indeed the phoenix of the Xia family." "Xiaoling, Are you amazing? Are all the people in the Wei family so arrogant? Wei Lingnan was not interested in quarreling with her and only said, Miss Ling, congratulations on your return to the family. I brought a gift to you. After saying this, he handed over a small glass bottle. The bottle contained a translucent blue liquid, and there was a starry glow floating in the liquid, which was so beautiful. Just as Xiaoling was about to reach out to pick it up, Wei Shaiyan suddenly held her back. What is this? Wei Shaiyan asked bravely. He knew very well how terrifying these unknown items in his house were, and even at the risk of angering his uncle, he did not want Xiaoling to come into contact with them without knowing anything. Wei Lingnan did not reprimand him this time, perhaps to give Xiaoling face. He looked at Xiaoling and said, this medicine can repair your body and allow you to become pregnant. When can you no longer be pregnant? Wei Shaiyan looked at her in shock. Xiaoling looked at Wei Lingnan in shock. How did you know there was something wrong with my body and I couldn't get pregnant? She had not publicized this matter to the outside world, and only a few people knew about it. Wei Lingnan looked at her calmly. Don't be so surprised, Miss Ling, I know a lot more about you than you think. For some reason, he had suspected her from a very early age. She was reincarnated, investigated her, and ordered Wei Shaiyan to secretly collect her hair and send it for testing. With the powerful research and analysis of the Wei family, it was not difficult to find out that she could not get pregnant. Xiaoling asked, what do you want? Wei Lingnan said, don't be so guarded. This is just a bottle of resuscitation potion. It has no other effect except repairing your body. For the sake of the Xia family, how can I dare to harm you? He smiled again, somewhat sarcastically. I remember that when her biological information was collected and analyzed, more than half of the Wei family's heavily guarded underground base quietly collapsed, and many experimental products and viruses leaked, causing heavy casualties in the base. Wei Lingnan knew that this was a warning from the Xia family, warning him not to do anything detrimental to Xiaoling. He really didn't dare to touch Xiaoling. There was no force in the world that could compete with the Xia family. Even if it is as powerful as him. Just think that I am trying to please the Xia family. Wei Lingnan handed over the bottle of potion again. Actually, I am here to ask you and Mr. Li Lei for something. Beside him, Wei Shaiyan, who had been listening to the two of them talking, looked like he had seen a ghost. Did he hear it correctly? His uncle actually said please. Is this the sun coming out in the west? Xiaoling felt that her IQ was not enough. Instinctively, she felt that she could not cope with this man. After accepting the potion, she asked Wei Shaiyan to help find Li Lei. Not long after, Li Lei hurried over. Mr. Wei Lingnan, he seemed to know the man. Long time no see. Long time no see, Mr. Li. Wei Lingnan also greeted him politely and smiled. Thank you for taking care of my nephew for so many years, and congratulations, you have won the favor of Xia family Phoenix. It seems that you already know what the Xia family Phoenix is. Li Lei's eyes narrowed slightly. He was very wary of anything involving Xiaoling, let alone facing a dangerous person like Wei Lingnan. He met Wei Lingnan because of the business between the two families. Few people know that the Wei family, a large biopharmaceutical group, has its real core base deep underground, using a large number of rare and prohibited materials, weapons, and defense systems, most of which were raised and transported by the Li family on their behalf. Apart from the Wei family, only the Li family knew how terrifying that base was. Li Lei had a realization a long time ago: he must never provoke the Wei family. Especially the man in front of me. Since Li Lei first saw him when he was with his grandfather when he was a child, more than 20 years have passed, and his appearance has not changed at all. Li Lei didn't know who he was, or what he was. He stood in front of Xiaoling calmly and said, Mr. Wei Lingnan, why are you here today? Wei Lingnan said calmly, I heard that you are planning to marry Feng Huang. Facing a wealthy family like the Xia family, it is necessary to follow the ancient method of doing the 3 books and 6 etiquette. However, it is difficult to find a powerful matchmaker, right? How about I recommend myself to go and talk to you as a matchmaker? Lilei frowned slightly. You. Why, the portion is not enough, Wei Lingnan smiled. If Mr. Wei Lingnan doesn't have enough weight, I'm afraid there won't be anyone in this world who has enough weight, Lilei said calmly. It's just that I'm surprised. Why are you interested in these trivial matters about your children? I want to visit the Xia family. Wei Lingnan did not shy away and stated his purpose. Lilei, others don't believe in reincarnation, but I do. I want to see what kind of environment can give birth to such a person. Miracle. This is a very good reason. Lilei knew that the Wei family had been studying biochemical systems for generations, and the ultimate proposition of life and death must be more attractive to them than imagined. It should be said that luckily Xiaoling has the Xia family behind her, otherwise she might have been arrested by the Wei family for slice experiments. He deeply understood how dangerous and troublesome Wei Lingnan was, and said, marriage is a matter between two families. Who can ask for a matchmaker? I will respect the opinions of the Xia family. Let's do this, Mr. Wei, I will mention you to the Xia family. If the Xia family has no objection, so I'll ask you to go and be a matchmaker. Wei Lingnan smiled slightly, don't let me down. After saying that, Tathagata walked into the night just like when he came. Looking at his retreating figure, Xiaoling felt her heart beating violently. Her palms were cold, so she grabbed Lilei's hand and asked in a low voice, why is this person so scary? She had an indescribable uncomfortable feeling, which had nothing to do with reason, but more like biological instinct. Faced with that, man wanted to retreat and escape. Even if he tried to show kindness and gave her a resuscitation potion, it was still useless. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 833. Chapter 833 Underground Hive. Lilei hugged her gently, don't be afraid, I'm here. Xiaoling also put her arms around his waist and nodded. What happened tonight was so weird that Xiaoling quickly called home, brother, there is a man named Wei Lingnan. She told in detail about Wei Lingnan's attempt to act as a matchmaker. After Xiaomoyan listened, his usually cold voice also had a hint of solemnity. Xiaoling, you must be careful about this person, he is the most dangerous person in the world. If there is anyone else under the protection of the Xia family, the mind has the power to move you, and he is the only one. Xiaoling didn't expect the situation to be so serious. How powerful is he? Xiaomoyan was silent for a moment and then said, perhaps, he is not a creature that should exist in this world at all, whether intentionally or not. Xiaomoyan did not use the word human this time. Xiaoling was terrified. Then what should I do? Just stay away from him and live your own life. Although he is very dangerous, he is not to the extent that he can ignore our family. As long as you don't push him to the point of jumping over the wall, he won't be tempted to trouble you, because in that case, the best he can do is to fight to the death. Her brother's words comforted Xiaoling a little. She no longer has to worry about Wei Lingnan's identity. Anyway, if the sky falls, her parents and brothers will help hold her up. She asked, then should we let him come to our house for matchmaking? Let him come. Xiaomoyan had already made up his mind, he won't give up unless he comes. Xiaoling said hello, hesitated, and then asked her brother about the bottle of medicine Wei Lingnan presented. Xiaomoyan said, for many years, the Xia family has been monitoring Wei Lingnan. This man has a strong purpose in doing things and will not harm others without any reason. In addition, he has no intention of being an enemy of the Xia family, so he should not harm anyone you. But everything is unexpected. I don't recommend you drink that bottle of medicine. I care more about your life, death, and health than the possible future children. He was still worried that there would be a problem with the medicine, and there was a 1 in minus 10,000 risk. Can't afford it? Xiaoling said, I understand, thank you brother. Hang up the phone, lower your head and think to yourself. Li Lei asked from the side, what did brother say? Xiaoling looked at the small bottle in her hand. The mysterious blue liquid was slowly flowing under the starlight, as if it was alive, and it was so beautiful that it was so beautiful. Is this a bottle of poison or a real potion? She does not know. She suddenly raised her head and asked Li Lei, if I die, will you marry again? What are the dead and alive? Li Lei was puzzled. What are you talking about these unlucky things for? If you die, I will die with you. In the next life, we will be husband and wife again. I'm not married yet. Xiaoling was amused by him. Then you ask me if I will marry again. Li Lei reached out and pinched the tip of her nose, looking at the thing in her hand curiously. What is this? Cocktail, Xiaoling replied, unscrewing the bottle cap and drinking the liquid in one gulp. She has figured it out. She wants to give Li Lei a few more children, both boys and girls, so that they will have descendants around her when she gets older. If she had to take risks to achieve her wish, she was willing to do so. Li Lei took the empty bottle from her hand, put it to the tip of his nose and smelled it. What remained was a sweet and sour smell. What kind of cocktail is this? Xiaoling, what on earth is this? Seeing that she couldn't hide it from him, Xiaoling said, the gift from Wei Lingnan is said to be good for your health if you drink it. I asked my brother and he said there is no danger. Li Lei's expression changed. Wei Lingnan, you can drink whatever you want, even if your brother says it's not dangerous. Come with me. He took her hand and ran to the car. When he arrived at the hospital, he hired an expert to conduct a comprehensive physical examination on her. After struggling for most of the night, the examination report came out and found that everything was normal. Li Lei then breathed a sigh of relief and said to her, if you dare to eat randomly again in the future, I will. What do you think? Xiaoling blinked. I'll. Li Lei thought about it and couldn't find any way to threaten her, so he had to say, I'll tell your dad. Xiaoling was silent, and so were the doctors beside her. Second young Master Li, do you dare to be more childish? She nodded perfunctorily, I will never eat randomly again. She turned to the doctor and asked, I had an abdominal injury before and my function was damaged. The doctor said I can never get pregnant again. Can you help me check? How is the situation now? I always feel lucky and hope that it will get better as time goes by. The doctor took the examination film and looked at it. No injuries can be seen, Miss Aya, let us carefully check your fertility function. This time, the test results came out quickly. Ms. Aya, you are healthy and can be pregnant at any time. Although Xiaoling was looking forward to a miracle, when it did happen, she still felt like she was in a dream. Really? That's great. Li Lei, did you hear that? We can have a child again. She cried and laughed and hugged Li Lei. Li Lei also reached out and hugged her, and suddenly he understood why she drank the bottle of medicine. It's not that she's ignorant, it's not that she's not afraid of danger, it's just that she longs to have more children with him. A warm current surged in his heart, and he hugged her tighter. Fool, the child is not as important as you. After a false alarm, in exchange for this great news, both of them were immersed in happiness. Li Lei without any objection entrusted Wei Lingnan to be the matchmaker and go to Xia's house to arrange marriage. The two families had already acquiesced in the marriage, and the marriage was just a formality. Soon, Wei Lingnan completed his mission. He didn't know what he got from the Xia family, but he seemed to be in a good mood and asked Wei Shayin to send another 2 bottles of medicine to Xiaoling and Li Lei. One bottle is an aphrodisiac. Wei Shayin handed the potion to them with a look of disgust. The other bottle is also an aphrodisiac. Boss, are you so weak? Xia Xiaoling's face turned red, she held back her laughter and ran away. Leaving the boss with a dark look on his face, he threw the 2 bottles of medicine back into Wei Shayan's arms. I'm very fine. You can keep it for yourself, thank you, he hurriedly chased classmate Xia Xiaoling to explain. Wei Shayan looked at his back with even more disgust and said to herself, the Wei family's new medicine can't be bought even with money on the black market, so you don't want it? You're so rich in nature. She actually kept it by herself. I plan to find someone to send it to. Wajia headquarters. In a huge honeycomb-like building 300 meters underground, it is heavily guarded and the corridors made of rare alloys are dimly lit and silent. On both sides of the corridor, there are glass rooms, some of which are filled with formalin, some of which contain ferocious monsters that cannot be named, and some of which are filled with workers wearing white coats. People are busy. Wei Lingnan walked all the way along the corridor to the deepest part and opened a door. Xia Yu, he called the name of the girl outside. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 834. Chapter 834, Find the Flower. The girl at the door was very thin, half crouching and half kneeling on the ground. Her hands were pulled up high and handcuffed to rings made of black stainless steel. There were thin traces of dried blood snaking down from where the wrists were worn. She raised her head weakly and saw Wei Lingnan, a look of horror on his pale face. Don't be so afraid. Wei Lingnan's voice was gentle. He walked up to her and raised her chin with 2 fingers. I'm not going to do experiments on you today. I'm here to tell you good news. The fear in Xia Yu's eyes not only did not fade away, but actually became stronger. The devil, the man in front of me is a devil. She has been here for several years since she was captured. At the Tianlai Music Festival that year, after Xiaoling exposed her lip-syncing thing, she had to disappear due to the angry denunciation of public opinion. She planned to go abroad to avoid the limelight and return home soon, but she was kidnapped not long after leaving the country. Come here, be locked up in a dark laboratory, and face blood draws, dissections, experiments, and this monster-like man every day. Her head was forced to lift high under the man's grip. The man's light amber pupils were reflected in his pupils and were so smooth that they were almost inhuman. I don't know if it was because of the pale light, but his face looked slightly distorted. As if it would melt any time and anywhere. Xia Yu shivered uncontrollably. Wei Lingnan rubbed her cheek carefully and whispered softly, after studying it for so long, your blood, genetic structure, and vital signs are all the same as ordinary people. Sure enough, you can't be a phoenix. It's a pity that the phoenix is the lifeblood of the Xia family. Son, I can't capture her, I've wronged you during this time. After being locked up in the laboratory for so long, Xia Yu already knew who the phoenix the man was talking about was her sister Xiaoling. As much as she fears this man, she hates Xiaoling. If it weren't for Xiaoling's so-called phoenix life, she wouldn't be implicated and treated like fish on the chopping board every day. As I thought about it, hatred shone in my eyes. You hate Xiaoling? This is not good, Wei Lingnan said with a smile. He seemed to be in a good mood. He straightened up and found a tube of refrigerated injection from the shelf nearby, and injected it into Xia Yu's skin. You are free. Wei Lingnan unlocked her shackles. Xia Yu, who was forced to kneel on the ground by the shackles, suddenly lost her support and fell as soft as a puddle of mud. She raised her head with difficulty, shocked, and asked in a hoarse voice in disbelief, I'm free. She was cautious, eager to hear a positive answer, but also afraid that it was a bad joke. Wei Lingnan said, I don't have time to waste on you. I want you to go back to Xia's house and do something for me. He took out a small piece of petals from his coat pocket. The outer layer was pure white, and the inner layer was dyed like flames. Hong said, I went to Xia's house and found this kind of phoenix feather flower. Some of the ingredients in this flower are very interesting. I hope you can find another one for me. It only grows in Xia's house. The Xia family is a very closed environment. Wei Lingnan only went in once when he was working as a matchmaker, but it was impossible to go in again. But Xia Yu is different. She is a member of the clan and can enter as long as she recognizes her ancestors and returns to the clan. Xia family, Xia Yu muttered again, a little confused. You don't know yet, right? Your sister Xiaoling, also known as Yexing Ling in this life, has recognized her ancestors and reunited with her family. The Xia family is also your family, and I want you to go back and recognize your relatives. Xia Yu was surprised again. Did the Xia family recognize Yexing Ling? Do they also think that Yexing Ling is the reincarnation of Xiaoling? She didn't believe this at first, and only thought Wei Lingnan was a madman. Why did he come back from the dead? He became obsessed with his research, wishfully associating Xiaoling and Yexing Ling together. However, if Xiaoling's family also recognized Yexing Ling, things would be different. Can't everyone be blind? Is there really such a thing as reincarnation in this world? Xia Yu's heart was filled with turmoil. Wei Lingnan looked at her expression and sneered, "You have been locked up here for so long, don't you still believe it?" Xia Yuji shivered and hurriedly whispered, "I believe it, I believe it." She had seen so many incredible things in this secret base, including monsters, viruses, and even the one in front of her. Men who are called human beings. If these things exist in reality, then why can't Xiaoling be reborn? I just want that kind of flower, which may be a breakthrough in resurrection research. Wei Lingnan told Xia Yu, "Get that kind of flower for me, and you will be truly free. I will never trouble you again, I promise." "What did you just inject me with?" Xia Yu asked. "That," Wei Lingnan said lightly, "it's just a small means of control. If you don't get the flowers within the agreed time, your skin will start to rot from your fingers until your whole body is full of maggots and you die." His voice was as soft as a whisper. Xia Yu didn't doubt what he said. Over the years, she had seen many of this man's incredible methods. She was very scared and nodded humbly and promised, "Yes, Mr. Wei, I will bring back the flower for you." "Good girl." Wei Lingnan smiled, "I will reward you when you come back." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left, while instructing the scientific researchers standing outside to release Xia Yu. Xia Yu was knocked unconscious and put on a black blindfold. She drove an unknown number of detours until she was finally pushed to a wilderness. When she opened her eyes again, she took off her blindfold and looked up to see a sky full of stars. She couldn't help but cry with joy. After so many years, she never thought that she would live to see the light of day. "I can finally be free from that monster, I can finally stop being used as a guinea pig." And these hardships she suffered were all caused by her dead sister Xiaoling, or Yexing Ling. She will take back this grudge well. Xia Yu's eyes became colder and colder, and she swore secretly. Xiaoling is practicing a song in the recording studio. The melody of the song was a bit complicated, and she couldn't find the perfect tone. She tried again and again, but it still wasn't satisfactory. She took off her headphones angrily and threw them on the recording table. Assistant Wai Wei knocked on the door. Xiaoling tilted her head, "Come in." Wai Wei walked in with an expression as if she had seen a ghost. "Sister Xiaoling, there is someone at the door who wants to see you." She is Xia Yu." "Xia Yu?" Xiaoling was also startled. Why did she suddenly appear? How many years ago was it last when you saw Xia Yu? It was so long ago that she almost forgot this name. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 835. Chapter 835. Xia Yu's Confession. She walked into the reception room under Wai Wei's guidance. The living room is elegantly decorated. Under the dark embossed walls is a burgundy leather sofa. Sitting on the leather sofa is a thin girl who looks a bit haggard under the quiet light. Xiaoling was startled. "Xia Yu." No wonder she was surprised. The Xiaoyu in front of her was completely different from the delicate girl in her memory. Her eye sockets were deeply sunken, her cheekbones were high, and her lips were dry, even after using so much cosmetics. I can't stand that haggard and old look. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyu has become old. How old is she? Xiaoling couldn't help but think to herself, only 28? Or 29? She has not yet reached the age where a woman should age rapidly, not to mention she is still sitting on a mountain of gold and silver. What kind of skincare products does she need? How did you get yourself into this situation? What has happened to you over the years? She couldn't help but ask. Xiaoyu seemed to be suddenly aware of her arrival. She looked away from a water plant, stood up in a panic, whispered, "Sister." "What did you call me?" Xiaoling suspected that she heard wrongly. "Sister," Xiaoyu said, tears falling from her eyes without warning, "I know who you are. You are my sister Xiaoling, right?" "Sister, forgive me," she said and knelt down with a plop. Xiaoling instinctively took a few steps back. To be honest, what surprised her more than the fact that Xiaoyu came to her was undoubtedly the fact that Xiaoyu admitted her identity and knelt down to admit her mistake. At this moment, it was difficult for her to describe her mood. It seemed that there was no joy or elation at all, but only endless fatigue. "I am not your sister," she said, "I am Yexing. All the reincarnations advertised outside are fake and are just media hype. Do you believe it?" "I believe it, I believe it," Xiaoyu cried, reaching out to hug her legs and raising her eyes. "Sister, I saw the news and heard that you have returned to the family. I also heard some things about our Xiaoyu. It's a family matter, since the patriarch and the master think you are the reincarnation of the phoenix, you must be my sister Xiaoling." Xiaoling was hugged by her legs and couldn't break free, so she sighed silently. She looked down at Xiaoyu and said in a calm tone, "Miss Xiaoyu, no matter whether I am Xiaoling or not, I will never recognize you as my sister again. You did that to me in your last life, and you have harmed Xiao Hui in this life. If you hadn't discovered it later, Xiao Hui is still alive. I want to crush you to ashes. What qualifications do you have to ask for my forgiveness?" "I understand. I understand," Xiaoyu burst into tears. "Sister, what happened in the past was all my fault. I shouldn't have done that to you, and I shouldn't have done that to Xiaohui. But, listen to my explanation." She looked at Xiaoling pleadingly, with a sad look on her face. "More than 10 years ago, I fell in love with brother Zi Hung, and then I lost my mind and wished you would die, sister, but when you really died, I found out I regret so much. I really regret it. I regret not treating you well when you were alive and choosing to betray me when you needed me the most. You are my only sister, and I have always treated you as my own sister. I realized that you are so important to me. I miss you so much. I really want you to be alive. I want to say sorry to you in person. Really, I have never dreamed of..." The more she talked, the harder she cried, until she broke down in sobs. Xiaoling felt a little sad in her heart. She never expected that she would hear the sister's confession one day in her lifetime. She recalled many past events in the orphanage, including the little girl who was always sick and bloated. She shared a small piece of candy with her and listened to her singing songs she had made up. She was almost moved. "However, I thought of those buns again. I remember you once said," Xiaoling's voice was a little cold, "you hated me when you were in the orphanage. You obviously didn't like eating meat buns, but you deliberately told me that I wanted to eat them, and encouraged me to fight with the older children. Every time you see me being beaten, you feel happy. Xiaoyu, you have hated me since you were a child, right? Don't rely on Pei Zion." "Yes, I haven't liked you since I was a child." Xiaoyu was still crying. She raised her hand and slapped herself hard twice, making her thin cheeks red and swollen. "When I was young, I was not sensible. When I heard other people praising you, I always very jealous. Sister, Do you know that they never praised me? I was a child at that time, and I was compared with you every day. Do you know what it felt like? Xiaoling was silent. She had never thought about this problem. She had been shining brightly since she was a child, but let the people closest to her live in the shadows. She couldn't get the recognition of others no matter how hard she tried. What kind of despair would that be? Xiaoyu continued, "Sister, I didn't mean it. I know you are good to me, but I just can't control the hatred in my heart. I was young and ignorant at that time, but now I know I was wrong. Sister, you forgive me, okay? You can hit me or scold me, but I don't want to lose you, sister." She fumbled, grabbed Xiaoling's hand, and slapped it on her face. Xiaoling hurriedly retracted her hand, broke away from her hug, and took a few steps back. "Stop nagging," she said coldly, "don't want to lose me? What did you do to me when I didn't want to lose you in my previous life? What did you do to me when I didn't want to lose Pei Ziyan? And what did you do to Xiao Hui when I didn't want to lose him in this life? Xiaoyu, do you want to save everything with just a few words? It's too late, I won't hurt you. You're lucky, get out of here." Xiaoyu shook her head and cried, "Sister, give me a chance to atone." Xiaoling was too lazy to talk nonsense with her, so she turned around and left. Xiaoyu hugged her legs again and cried hoarsely, "Sister. Please. I really regret it. They said that anyone who offends Phoenix will not have a good ending and will not be able to return to the family. Just forgive me, okay? I really want to go home, I want to find my parents." Xiaoling's heart moved. No wonder the sister suddenly changed her gender. It turned out that she wanted to return to the Xia family. "I can't help you with this, Xiaoyu. If I had known this, why would I do it in the first place? No matter who comes to ask me, my answer will always be only 3 words, no forgiveness." After she finished speaking, she pulled away from Xiaoyu harder and left. Got out. Whether Xiaoyu can return to the family or not, what does it have to do with her? Her sympathy for the sister had been exhausted in her previous life. Now it was very difficult not to add insult to injury. It was absolutely impossible for her to do something that would wrong her in order to fulfill the sister's wish. "Xiaoyu, if you had known this day, why did you do it in the first place?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 836. Chapter 836 Return to Tianyi. Xiaoling walked slowly along the corridor, the scene of meeting Xiaoyu just now echoing in her mind. It was really strange, where did the sister come from? After she disappeared that year, Xiaoling looked for her in order to avenge Xiao Hui, but she disappeared as if she had evaporated. This is so strange. Miss Aya. Miss Aya. Along the corridor, many staff members bowed their heads and bowed to greet her when they saw her. She was deep in thought as she walked through the crowd of 2s and 3s. Suddenly she paused, turned, and went upstairs, walking along the sky corridor on the 22nd floor towards Tianyi. This sky corridor was built just this year, spanning the entire busy highway, connecting her office with Li Lei's office across the street. She entered Li Lei's office through a specially designed door. Li Lei was handling official business, and a subordinate was sitting opposite him, and the two were discussing something. Seeing Xiaoling come in, he waved his hand to signal his subordinates to go out. He looked at her and chuckled, coming, he opened his arms and motioned for her to enter his arms. Xiaoling was in no mood, ignored his arm, and curled up listlessly on the sofa next to the floor-to-ceiling window. Her thin white fingertips were playing with the tassels of the pillow unconsciously, and her voice was muffled, "Guess who came to see me?" "Who?" Li Lei was confused, Did he make you unhappy? I'll beat him up for you. Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, this time, Li Lei was surprised. Is this the sister you had in your previous life, Xiaoyu, who has been missing for several years? Why did she suddenly appear? Who are you asking me? Xiaoling was still listless and put her head on her knees. She appeared a little strangely. She admitted her mistake to me and asked me to forgive her. She also wanted to recognize her ancestors and return to the Xia family. Li Lei asked, does she know that she and you are not born to the same parents? Your father is the clan leader, and her parents are just distant relatives who are not doing well. She doesn't know, Xiaoling said. Li Lei said, perhaps I am jealous when I see you coming home with great fanfare and getting many benefits. Xiaoling said, it's possible that she really misses her parents. After saying that, she shook her head and smiled bitterly, but it's hard to say, how could a heartless person like her miss her relatives? Li Lei asked her about the situation during the meeting, and called his subordinates to ask them to investigate Xiaoyu's experiences over the years. He must be careful about sailing the ship of 10,000 years. He must know the ins and outs of the people who appear next to Xiaoling. After his subordinates took the order, Li Lei said to Xiaoling, be careful with her and don't have too much contact with her. Xiaoling smiled and said softly, I understand. It felt good to be cared about by him, which slowly restored her originally depressed mood. Outside the door, someone rang the bell. Come in, Li Lei said loudly. A secretary-looking person came in and bowed slightly to him. Boss, Mr. Tan asked me to come over and ask, do you have any other opinions about the star return plan for the training camp? Just before Xiaoling appeared, Li Lei was discussing this matter with others. Hearing this, he turned to look at Xiaoling and said with a smile, you came just in time. I have something to ask you. The Tianyi training camp is planning to launch a celebrity return plan. To put it bluntly, it is to invite the already famous. The seniors went back to the training camp to give lectures and teach the younger trainees some experience. Xiaoling, are you interested? Xiaoling tilted her head slightly, returned to the training camp. Honestly, her singing skills were really not honed in Tianyi. If we trace the origins, she should have gone back to the emperor's training camp to give lectures. However, why be so serious? Okay, she agreed lightly and skillfully, I really miss those days. Li Lei knew she would answer and said with a smile, I will go back with you. In this world, there are thousands of people who want to be big stars, but only a few can actually achieve it. This is a difficult and narrow road. Once you achieve success, you will become famous. There are many geometric multiples of how many people become famous. The people fell into disgrace. Therefore, the big stars who are qualified to return to their alma mater to give lectures all return with great honors. The school chose a perfect day to put up posters of her all over the campus, and her songs were floating in the air. The sky is clear and the vegetation is lush and green. Xiaoling went back together with Li Lei. Walking around the training camp, there are birds chirping and flowers fragrant everywhere, and the lake is sparkling with bits of gold. She pointed it out to Li Lei, did you see that patch of grass? Sometimes I practice dancing there. And that big rock over there, facing the lake, is a good place for singing in the morning. Ah, that a piece of ivy, I watered it when I was on duty. Did you know that this was my first time cleaning since I left the orphanage? A small road, that building. She told him about every object and scene. Li Lei had a slight smile on his lips as he listened to her talking happily. In fact, Tan Ying had already reported to him in detail about everything she had done in the training camp. However, it is one thing to read from those cold information, and it is another thing to hear her tell it personally. Her bright smile and cheerful expression make people's hearts beat, and they can't help but feel as if they have followed her back to the world past. There were scattered trainees passing by nearby. They had been ordered not to disturb the two of them. They only glanced at them from a distance, whispered excitedly for a few words, and then dispersed. Xiaoling took Li Lei's hand and interlocked with his fingers. She pointed at a building in the distance with her other hand. Look, that's my dormitory over there. Do you see that balcony? I met him there in the middle of the night. Your phone was cold and I got scolded by Sister Maina the next day. She smiled as she talked about the past. Li Lei looked at her fondly and said in a low and magnetic voice. She rested her head on his shoulder. It's good to be back. Things that were hard at the time are so nostalgic now. Li Lei, what do you think we would be like now without this training camp? Li Lei naturally put his arm around her waist. It's still the same. A determined tone. She looked up at him. Li Lei gave her a peck on the cheek and said, no matter where you are or what you look like, we will be together. I am your Wutong and you are my phoenix. This is God's arrangement. She was startled, and her expression softened. Yes, he is her phoenix tree, and she is his phoenix. They will live forever and will not change. The two of them hugged each other all the way into the teaching building. There is a dance practice room deep in the corridor on the second floor. There are several boys and girls in white dance uniforms practicing hard. Xiaoling stopped outside the door, not disturbing them, and whispered to Li Lei, it's right here, on the floor in the corner over there. When I opened my eyes, I found that I had turned into Yexin Ling. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 837. Chapter 837, Convincing People with Virtue. Li Lei took a few steps closer to take a look, and saw that in the bright and soft room, the floor looked ordinary and there was nothing unusual about it. But it was this small, extremely ordinary place that was the starting point for the reincarnation of his beloved woman. How wonderful! He looked a little fascinated. In the dance practice room, several trainees had stopped to rest at some point. One of the girls handed a white towel to a boy and asked, aren't you going to practice anymore? The boy said, I won't practice anymore. There is a lecture by Yexin Ling in the afternoon. I have to seize the time to get a seat. The girl was a little unhappy. You clearly know that I hate Yexin Ling, and I like Xia Yu. Hearing what she said, Li Lei, who was behind the door, turned to look at Xiaoling. Xiaoling pulled his sleeves and stopped him from looking eager to rush forward and teach the little girl a lesson. Girls of this age have many star chasers, and they like all kinds of stars. It cannot be stipulated that everyone in the world is only allowed to like her. People just like Xia Yu, so what? There is no reason to talk about this kind of thing. She signaled Li Lei to step back and walked away quietly with her. Unexpectedly, before taking a few steps, I heard the boy's voice, I'm sorry, I won't go to see Yexin Ling later. I'll buy you the latest issue of a magazine with an interview with Xia Yu. I heard she made a comeback, held a media conference to apologize to her sister, and wanted to return to the Xia family. Xiaoling paused for a moment. Did Xia Yu hold a media conference? Is there such a big commotion? I heard the girl snored, that's pretty much it. Who is Yexin Ling? She dares to pretend to be Xiaoling and ask my Xiao to apologize. Is she worthy? Humph, my Xiao has a good temper and is easy to bully, but our raindrops don't what a bully. Let's go, I will post online to support Xiao. She took the boy and walked out happily. Xiaoling reflexively tried to dodge, but was held back by Li Lei. With a drag, the two children had already walked out. When they saw them, they were stunned. Xiaoling also felt a little embarrassed. She glared at Li Lei and said, let's go. Li Lei did not leave, he stretched out his hand and pointed at the two of them, with a charming smile on his face. 100 points will be deducted for each of them in the academic year. The two children were stunned. Boss, it's not fair for you to deduct it like this, the boy shouted first and stepped forward. 100 points is equivalent to the total score of a course. If you deduct it like this, we won't pass the exam. That's right, the girl also took courage. Did we violate that school rule? You didn't violate the school rules, Lilei still smiled. What I want to teach you is that there is not so much fairness in the world, and sometimes luck is also very important. You are just unlucky today and bumped into me, and I just don't like you, that's all. But, the two children wanted to say something else. Master Boss shook his finger and said, "Don't argue, I will hate you even more. Maybe next time you will be banned and expelled from the training camp," he said with another toothy smile. The two children looked at each other and saw hesitation and shrinkage in each other's eyes. Especially that girl. After careful consideration, she felt that she could not be dropped out of school to chase stars. If she left the Tianyi training camp, her own dream of becoming a star would not be realized. She apologized to Xiaoling in a low voice. "I'm sorry, however, seeing him defending himself like this made me feel happy," and a smile appeared on his face. He who understands current affairs is a hero and has a good attitude in admitting his mistakes. "Let's add 50 points," she said. "You should be lucky that this is a training camp. If one day you really set foot in the entertainment industry and offend someone, you won't die no matter what. No." After saying that, he took Lilei's hand and walked away. Master Boss glanced sideways and saw the slightly raised corners of her lips, and secretly cursed, "You still despise me for bullying a child, aren't you enjoying the bullying yourself?" The two of them walked far along the corridor and then stopped. Xiaoling suddenly said, "I want to change the theme of the lecture." "Change the subject?" Lilei asked. Her original theme was how to improve her stage dominance. Now she changed the theme temporarily. Was it because of the stimulation of those two children? Replace it with what? Xiaoling gritted her teeth, the bottom line of being a human being. After 1 hour, when she stepped onto the podium in the auditorium and faced the packed students, she really talked about the purely moral topic of the bottom line of being a human being. She told everyone that in the bizarre world of the entertainment industry, there are too many temptations and it is not easy to stick to the bottom line of being a human being. For example, some people will sell their personality for money, some people will be blinded by hatred, and some people will do whatever it takes to get the upper hand. She hopes everyone can be clean and have a clear conscience. This made many students down there who came here to listen to her lectures burst into tears. "What the hell, Goddess Xiaoling, we came here early to queue up to grab a seat and squeezed out time to listen to your lectures. We want to hear some experiences and techniques. Please give me what's going on when we take ideological education classes." Woohoo, is it too late to leave now? A few people actually left the venue secretly. The remaining people also planned to follow suit, but soon, commotion spread among the crowd. "You still dare to leave, looking for death? Didn't you hear that Big Boss Li is arresting people outside?" Wang Yan and Zhao Dalong, who just left the scene early, were both caught, and each of them was deducted 50 credits. "Wow, so cruel," the remaining people cried. "This is a rhythm that will drive us to death." "Well, bear with it, the lecture is only 2 hours anyway, just get over it." Everyone has tears in their eyes. This is the lecture given by Goddess Xiaoling. They thought there would be a lot of useful information. Each and every one of them came with an excited learning attitude. Their mobile phones were not fully charged, and they did not bring spare pads, game consoles, ebooks and other equipment. Now the atmosphere in the audience was low, and everyone was scratching the wall. "You guys think that Goddess Xiaoling is hiding something secret, right?" they began to whisper to each other. "However, Xiaoling's ear is very good." "Then who, that one over there, you, that is, you, come up to me with the one who said I was hiding something. Why did I hide something? Do you know that artistic ethics is very important? Some of today's artists are just wicked. I'm here to prevent you from becoming like that." She couldn't stop the children from not liking Xiaoyu. After all, except for a few people, most people still didn't know the true face of Xiaoyu and others. She could only warn her children that they should have a bottom line as a human being and not let their moral character fall short. She pulled away again and again. Everyone at the bottom was crying. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 838. Chapter 838, Scrambling to be the first. Amidst the low pressure, a girl packed up the things on the table and walked out. Her companion quickly grabbed her and lowered his voice, "Fei, are you looking for death? Didn't you hear them say that the boss will arrest people at the door himself? Don't you want the 50 credits? Yezingfei snorted coldly, 50 credits? I would rather deduct all of them than listen to her nonsense here. I thought she had any real materials, but it turns out that she has no real ability at all, and she became the Queen of Heaven by showing off." Really, she spoke a little loudly, and the students nearby looked over. "Hurry," her companion pulled her tighter, "keep your voice down." Yezingfei was very angry and stood up suddenly, knocking over tables and chairs. Her eyes widened and she shouted loudly, "That's what I want to say. Yexingling can do it by herself, why don't you let others say it? Li Yulai, let go, such a shameless and hypocritical person's lecture, I can't listen to it for a second." It was during the break between Xiaoling's speech and the whole place was very quiet. Yezingfei made a fuss, and instantly, hundreds of people present looked at her. "Isn't that Yezingfei? I heard that she is Miss Ling's sister? Why do you talk about your sister like this?" someone whispered to each other. "Sister, sister, sister," someone else said, "Miss Ling has left the family." Is Yezingfei feeling unbalanced? Now there's something good to watch. A group of trainees who had just been drowsy from the ideological education lecture suddenly came to life and opened their eyes to gossip in high spirits. Xiaoling did not expect that Yezingfei would come to listen to her lecture. Originally, she thought that with how much Yezingfei hated her, she would not show up at the venue at all. Across hundreds of students, she looked at Yezingfei calmly with her eyes, raised the microphone, and asked slowly, "You said I am shameless and hypocritical. Did I say something wrong?" Yezingfei was very emotional. She had already become the focus of everyone's attention anyway. She simply took the risk and said to Xiaoling with a stiff neck, "Your biological father is still alive, so you should sever ties with him. Why don't you recognize the Xia family? Do you think our family is not as rich as the Xia family? Are you qualified to talk about morality?" Everyone at the scene gasped, "This girl is so bold. Why did you talk to Xiaoling? Even if they are related by blood, such words are too disrespectful." Under the podium, the accompanying academic director winked at the security guard and motioned for him to step forward and take the person away. However, Xiaoling stopped the security guard and said to Yezingfei, "This is also one of the things I want to teach you. Don't be fooled by appearances. Fei, you only saw me leaving the Ye family, but you didn't see the sacrifices I made for the Ye family over the years. How much has the Xia family paid for me? We shouldn't judge a person's quality based solely on our own likes and dislikes. Even if you really think someone is bad, as long as the other person does not harm others, please do it. Keep this judgment in your heart and don't say it out loud. Many of you will become famous and become public figures in the future. Your words and deeds will have a much greater impact than you think now. Please be careful in your words and actions, be responsible for others, and be responsible for yourself." By the way, she cited a few examples of bad words in the entertainment industry. Some celebrities were caught because they were not cautious enough in their words. In the end, they either lost their reputation or caused heavy losses to their relatives, friends, and others. Under the podium, those trainees who originally wanted to watch the sisters fight, unknowingly became immersed in the cases she told, and nodded convincingly, feeling that Goddess Xiaoling is worthy of being Goddess Xiaoling, and her magnanimity and vision are beyond the reach of ordinary people. Yes, in comparison, Ye Xingfei seems much more petty. Ye Xingfei saw that no one was helping her. She was as angry as a cat whose tail was stepped on, her cheeks turned red. She wanted to say something more, but the security guard on the side had already stepped forward and invited her out politely but forcefully. At the entrance of the lecture hall, Lida Boss moved a recliner, made a pot of tea and sat there, playing with his mobile phone leisurely. Seeing her come out, he grinned and said, 300 points will be deducted for leaving early and disrupting class. Not to mention his personal revenge, he saw it all when Ye Xingfei yelled at Xiaoling just now. If anyone dares to offend his woman, he will make him miserable. He is just so unreasonable. Ye Xingfei originally thought that she would only be deducted 50 points. When she heard the news of 300 points, her body shook slightly. This semester, unless she gets full marks in every subject, it will be difficult for her to pass the final. It's exam time. If you fail to pass, you will have to pack up and go home. She opened her mouth to protest that this was unfair. However, when she came into contact with Li Lei's eyes that were obviously smiling but looked so cold, all her courage disappeared. This man is terrible. Ye Xingfei lowered her head and walked away dejectedly. Li Lei looked at her retreating back and waved to the side. Next to him, General Manager Tan Yington, who was enjoying the cold breeze and drinking tea with him in the corridor, came over with an unhappy look on his face and asked resentfully, "Master Boss, what's wrong with you? A good training camp, every time nothing good will happen when the boss shows up." He deducted points from so many people this time. Tan Ying can already predict that there will soon be a large wave of students coming to his office to beg for mercy. Ouch, I have a headache. Li Lei seemed not to notice General Manager Tan's displeasure at all, and asked him, how was Ye Xingfei's performance in the training camp? Not bad, Tan Ying said of the children under his command, although they have only been here for a few days, their talents are among the best and they are the seed players in the same class. As long as they work hard and polish themselves, they will definitely be good in the future, can shine brightly. Then polish it off, Boss Li said with a ferocious smile. Let her understand the gap between herself and Xiaoling as soon as possible. Don't always think that everyone owes her. Tan Ying, yes. Master Boss, do you know that your public and private vengeance has become more and more serious recently? However, that girl is indeed a little arrogant. She relies on her extraordinary talent to make everything easy, and she is not as hard-working as Ye Xingling back then. If this continues, no matter how good your talent is, it will be wasted. Tan Ying thought deeply, it's time to find some excitement for her. Over there, in the lecture hall, Xiaoling talked for 2 hours about the importance of artistic ethics. When the time finally came, all the trainees in the audience, who were like morning concubines, finally came to life, cheered, and rushed out of the classroom. Tisk, tisk, Tan Ying sighed to the crowd, this is your attitude towards the goddess. What a ghost goddess. Teacher Tan, I really can't stand it anymore. A boy happened to hear this, stopped, and wailed at Tan Ying with tears streaming down his face, from today on, I want to change to a goddess. I have decided. Now, my new goddess is the sweeping lady who rings the bell. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 839. Chapter 839 Individual Tutoring. But, Li Lei opened his mouth. Boss, I was wrong, the male student looked like he had seen a ghost and ran away. I haven't even finished what I said yet. Li Xiaolai, who had no points deducted, felt aggrieved. Please don't cause trouble for me. Tan Ying's head is about to explode. It's also because his boss is a wife-protecting maniac and has a snake syndrome. He's not married yet. If he gets married in the future, he will let him not letting others live. The crowd quickly dispersed, and Xiaoling walked out slowly. Seeing Tanying and Li Lei at the door, she smiled and said, "How is it? Did my speech go well?" "Okay, oh my sister, Tanying is very annoying." "Okay, great," Boss Li said with a doting look on his face, "I knew you were the best." Xiaoling, look, I moved a chair at the door and listened to it from beginning to end. I never tire of it. Tanying couldn't stand it any longer and complained in her heart, "Boss, do you dare to act more fake? It's true that you moved a chair and sat at the door to calm the scene for the woman you love, but can you explain what's going on with Li and Lion Ken and Minesweeper on your phone?" Throughout the lecture, from beginning to end, except for the moment when Yezing Fei bumped into Xiaoling and you raised your head to pay attention, you were clearly playing games the rest of the time. Okay. He wanted to tell Xiaoling the truth so much. It's a pity that he can't. If this happens to the trainee, it will deduct credits. If it happens to him, it will deduct his salary. He's not stupid, he. So, the innocent and ignorant classmate Xiaoling smiled sweetly and raised her chin a little arrogantly. "I also think what I said is pretty good. Virtue and art, virtue comes before art. Morality is more important than anything else. Actually, I have a good idea." She looked at Li Lei and Tanying with bright eyes. "How about turning this lecture into a series of courses? I can come over and teach them how to be a good person. The effect is definitely better than once or twice." Li Lei smiled and said, "Okay, as long as you are busy." Xiaoling counted on her fingers. "Time is a bit tight, but it doesn't matter. I can withdraw some notices. The most important thing is to cultivate children's sense of morality." Li Lei's expression became even more doting. "Then I'll let the training camp coordinate with your time. Let alone she wants to start a class, even if she wants to burn down the house, I'm afraid the wife-crazy classmate Li Xiaoli I will agree without hesitation." It was just a pain for Tanying. General Manager Tan scratched the wall again and again, and finally couldn't help but said, "Can you please stop treating me as dead?" "Li Lei," he was so angry that he didn't even call him boss. "It was you back then. The training camp was handed over to me. I should be the one in charge here, right? The children's time is so precious, how can they have time to attend any moral education classes? Besides, Ma Jimao is already in the training camp." "That's it?" Xiaoling was unhappy. "You don't want to?" Tanying went crazy. "Yes, Yingling, you yourself came out of the training camp. You don't know how heavy the children's homework is. You give them extra classes, aren't you trying to force them to death? The most important thing is, no one wants to listen to this class, it's a waste of time." Xiaoling said, "It doesn't matter, just make it an elective course." Elective courses. Tanying became even more distressed. "When the time comes and not a single student comes, won't you be embarrassed? If the paparazzi get such news, you will have great fun." Xiaoling was rarely confident and looked at Tanying with disdain. "Of course I have a way to get them to come to class." "What solution?" Tanying didn't believe she could come up with any good solution. Xiaoling smiled slightly and asked him first, "I remember there are surveillance cameras installed in the lecture hall. When I gave the lecture just now, was there any surveillance camera that recorded the whole process?" "Of course," Tanying said. "Okay," Xiaoling nodded. "You ask someone to adjust the monitoring to see if any students listened carefully from beginning to end, select them, and then notify the whole school. These students can get private tutoring from me. I will provide targeted one-on-one guidance to them to point out and solve their problems." This. Tanying's eyes lit up, and she realized that she was looking at her like a new continent. She didn't expect that this girl was usually silly, but sometimes her brain was really useful. Private tutoring from a diva-level figure. This kind of good thing, How many children are fighting for it, can't get it? It turns out that just taking a good ideological and moral class can get it? Then why is this ideological and moral class still so popular? I'm afraid it's already full. And everyone will listen very carefully. Tan Ying finally convinced her, this is a good idea and feasible. Xiaoling said I knew it on her face and ordered Tan Ying to execute it. The surveillance system was quickly called out, and 3 or 4 children were really lucky. They listened to the class conscientiously from beginning to end with serious expressions on their faces. Tan Ying sent someone to send a notice, arranging for them to receive one-on-one tutoring from Xiaoling. These children were knocked unconscious by the big pie dropped from the sky. Happiness, excitement, all kinds of emotions enveloped them. People spoke of the news with joy. The news spread throughout the training camp. Many children have regretted it. If they had known that paying attention to classes carefully would bring such benefits, why would they have deserted the class in the first place? Woo-hoo-hoo, if God can give them another chance, they will definitely take it seriously and never get distracted. As if God heard their prayers, the training camp immediately announced that from now on, Xiaoling would take time to hold a series of ideological and moral lectures from time to time. Each lecture has 10 places for individual tutoring. For the most serious students, open to the top 10 students. The training camp was buzzing with cheers. Many children have decided that from now on they must pay attention to artistic and moral education. Xiaoling and Li Lei simply had a meal in the training camp cafeteria. Afterwards, she found a quiet classroom and began to coach the lucky trainees one-on-one. Although the children clamored to change to a goddess, they were still very excited when they were actually being taught one-on-one by her. They were cautious and trembling, lest they did something wrong and left a bad impression on the goddess. Xiaoling was very patient, using her precious experience over the years and her venomous eyes to point out their shortcomings, and put forward solutions in a targeted manner. Everyone was given adequate guidance, which benefited them a lot. One by one, the children went out with great gratitude. The last one to come in was Wang Shuang. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass, the sky in the classroom had darkened. Xiaoling turned on the light and used the quiet light to look at the nervous and reserved girl. I have read your information, she said to the girl. The basic skills are very solid, and you sang the exam song at the end of last semester well. However, are you imitating Xiaoyu in your singing style? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 840. Chapter 840. The training camp is not a paradise either. Wang lowered his head and said, yes, I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? Xiaoling raised her eyebrows slightly, her voice like broken jade scattered in the air. Wang Shuang was embarrassed. Miss Ling, I know you and Xiaoyu are not on good terms. I shouldn't imitate someone you don't like. It's just that my talent is too ordinary. I have to work very hard I can achieve a little bit, and Xiaoyu happens to be the same type, and her voice is somewhat similar to mine, so I feel that imitating her is a shortcut I can take. Sorry. She bent down deeply. Xiaoling was a little stunned. She didn't expect that her casual question would lead to such a sentence. She couldn't laugh or cry. I don't mean to blame you. It's one thing if I don't like her, but it's another thing if you want to imitate her. If imitating her can make you progress, don't say that she and I can't deal with each other. Even if you have a blood feud with me, I won't take it out on you. Wang Shuang asked doubtfully, really? Xiaoling said, why did I lie to you? Come on, sing a song for me and let me see how your voice sounds. Wang Shuang breathed a sigh of relief and started singing a song that was more representative for her. The beautiful singing voice echoed in the air, and I could tell that my basic skills were indeed very solid, but I always felt like something was missing. At the end of the song, she bowed deeply again, Please give me Miss Aya's advice. Xiaoling said, sing the phrase I can't see all your features at a glance again. Wang Shuang sang it again. Half-tone sharp. She then sang it again, rising a half key. Half-tone flat. This time, another half-flat tone was sung. After listening, Xiaoling said, sure enough, Xia Yu's style is not suitable for you. Shuang, right? You should stop imitating her immediately and explore your own path again. Why? Wang Shuang was shocked. I have always felt that she is the one who best suits my style. That's because you haven't heard her live a cappella singing, Xiaoling bluntly revealed. Xia Yu is a recording studio singer, and most of her songs are synthesized in the recording studio with a lot of post-processing. Understand, and you actually want to imitate her processed level with your own a cappella singing? Yes, her voice and range are not much different from yours, so it will be difficult for you to complete the songs that she can't sing a cappella. This is also the reason why you have been imitating her for so long but have been unsuccessful. Do you feel it yourself? Yes. Wang Shuang was shocked. Oh my god, she is actually a recording studio singer? No wonder I always feel very difficult when singing her songs in some parts, and I can't make the transition. I thought it was because I didn't work hard enough. It turns out it's not my problem at all because I'm not good enough. Xiaoling nodded, yes. You don't have to force yourself at all. If you force yourself, your throat will be damaged. Look, this is the importance of artistic ethics. If Xia Yu has some moral character and can openly reveal that her singing relies on post-production synthesis, then she will not cause these younger generations to go astray at all, maybe, for the rest of their lives. His future was delayed. You have to have a bottom line as a human being. She murmured. Wang Shuang was very frightened. Then what should I do? Xiaoling said, it's very simple, don't take the gorgeous route. Your voice is very clean and more suitable for a lyrical and fresh style. If you practice more of Wei Shaiyin's early works, you will have good results. Thank you Sister Xiaoling. Wang Shuang was extremely happy. For a long time, she felt that her singing skills were stuck at a bottleneck and she didn't know how to break through. Now that Xiaoling nudged her, she suddenly felt enlightened and gained a lot. She thanked her profusely, said goodbye and left. After sending Wang Shuang away, Xiaoling leaned against the wall of the classroom alone, holding up a glass and drinking water. I have been teaching all day today and my voice is tired. I need to take a good rest. Out of the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, the sky is filled with stars in the gentle night, and the quiet tree-lined avenues of the campus extend into the distance. She recalled that many years ago when she was still a trainee, she was sweating profusely every day in Emperor, and like her classmates, she was looking forward to one day becoming famous and becoming a big star that attracted everyone's attention. At that time, her sister Xia Yu had not yet fallen out with her. She has not complained tearfully in the media like she does now, implying that she is unwilling to forgive, which makes Xia Yu unable to recognize her ancestors and return to her family. Public opinion outside is somewhat chaotic. Some people laughed at Xia Yu because she was not recognized by her family but relied on others. Many people sympathized with Xia Yu and really believed that it was Xiaoling's obstruction that prevented her from returning. Xiaoling is too lazy to pay attention to these things. Now she just wants to live a good life with Li Lei, let the years go by peacefully, and not stir up any more troubles. However, the tree wants to be still but the wind does not stop. Even leaving aside Xia Yu's affairs, there are still a steady stream of, well, little flies, staring at her belongings. Xiaoling's gaze fell on a certain point outside the window and gradually became sharper. Outside the window, Li Lei was walking towards her along the tree-lined path. He was wearing a black casual sportswear, with his hands casually inserted in his trouser pockets. His short hair was fluttered in the evening breeze. He looked neat and handsome, making people blush and heartbeat. He was walking, and suddenly, a girl rushed out of the diagonal stab. She bumped into him recklessly but very accurately. With her thunderous posture, an ordinary person would have been crushed by her long ago. On the ground. However, Lillet supported the girl with just one hand and stood firm himself at the same time. He lowered his head and said something to the girl, and was about to let go of her hand. However, the girl didn't know whether she was frightened or on purpose. She tightly wrapped her arms around his waist and buried her face in his chest. Her thin shoulders were trembling slightly and she refused to leave. Xiaoling felt angry after seeing this. She put the water glass heavily on the table and walked out quickly. Hunting on high heels, he walked through the corridor and came to the outdoor tree-lined walkway. Under the dim yellow European street lights, the girl was still hugging Lillet tightly and said incoherently, "Help me, I'm so scared, someone just chased me, really." The girl was wearing a very short top. A section of her snow-white waist was exposed, and the miniskirt on her lower body couldn't be any shorter. Her slender thighs were pressed against Lillet's legs, and because of the trembling, it actually looked like they were being rubbed. Xiaoling became even more angry. "Lillet, you are so good, you are trying to die in front of me, huh?" Over there, Boss Li, who was struggling with the girl, looked up and saw classmate Xiaoling, who was extremely angry. He trembled with fright and quickly pulled the girl away from him. "Don't be angry," he said weakly to Xiaoling. The girl still had her back to Xiaoling, thinking that Lillet was talking to her. How dare I be angry with you? Even if you just opened my hand and caused me a little pain, look, it's all red already." She reached out her hand again and rubbed Lillet's body. End of this chapter.